Next, we're going to work on arm balances. And there are tons of arm balances that you can do. And they're a hard class of postures for most people because most people feel they don't have enough strength, but really they kind of trick themselves into not engaging all of their strength. Because arm balances are really more about distributing your weight in a way that you feel light and integrating your body so that everything's working to uplift you. So arm balances can be an incredibly empowering practice. They can make you feel strong, they can help you feel liberated, and they make you feel really integrated in your body. So it's important to practice them. And some of the main alignment principles is that you really have to use your fingers. If you're just using the heel of your hand, you can put a lot of compression on your wrist, and you just don't have the dexterity and the refinement that your fingers give you. Imagine trying to type on your keyboard with the heel of your hand. It would never work, right? We need refinement and dexterity via the fingertips. So you're really going to have to use those with your arm balance practice. You also have to keep your feet active. Your feet are active just like in your hip openers, so then your legs are active and you can open your hips because your hips need to be up and lifting you in most of the arm balances. And if your feet fall asleep, your legs fall asleep, and it's just like crumbling from the top down. And lastly, your shoulders often round forward by virtue of the pose and by virtue of you holding weight. But the action, even if the movement is forward, the action is you're still drawing your shoulder blades on your back to support you. We're going to start with one of the easiest arm balances, and it's a great one to build strength. It's Vashisthasana side plank pose. So for Vashisthasana, you really want to work on pressing your fingertips down and even getting a distance, a diagonal between your wrist and your shoulder. If you're here, it feels really heavy. So get space there and you'll be able to integrate your shoulder on your back. Other variations, you can bring your left foot in front of your right knee and really lift your hips up, and that'll help prepare you and strengthen you. You can eventually stack your foot. You can eventually bring the bottom foot down, so the sole of your foot will be down, and you can bring this foot up into tree pose, or even grab the outer edge of your foot and you extend the leg to the sky. Right? So lots of variations, but you start by just working the fingertips into the mat and keeping your feet active so your legs support you. Now the shoulder blade, you can see it from the back. I'm supporting myself, but I'm not rolling the shoulder forward. I'm drawing the shoulder blades on my back, and then I feel stronger and more integrated. Right? So not here, here. Now these same principles apply in something like Bakasana, crow pose. Crow pose, a lot of people get really scared because of their wrists, or they just feel like they're not strong enough. But crow pose is an incredible practice to train yourself to feel strong and to use your fingertips. You can always practice with a bolster in front of you so you can eliminate the fear of falling on your face, right? So for crow pose, you have a whole practice on arm balances that I'm sure you're going to love. You come into a squat, and then you work your arms underneath you, right? And remember, you've got to use your fingertips, because like we learned in Module 4, your fingertips will strengthen your arms. Now what you'll do is you'll lift up, and then you come onto the upper arms and you squeeze in, right? And feet stay active. You use the bolster, and you can even put your head down and just practice hugging in and staying strong, right? And once you learn to stay strong there, you have to practice these type of postures. It's so important to go to the places that challenge you, and I know arm balances challenge you, they challenged me. But work your fingertips, keep your feet active, keep your shoulder blades on your back, and you'll be good. And even if you practice with your head on a bolster or on a pillow, you're still going to be building strength, building your confidence, and building your practice. So keep working at those. I'm going to show you crow pose one more time without the bolster. So hands on the earth, fingertips first, fingertips active and engaged. You lift up and off, feet stay active, hug your knees in so you can lift your hips up, maybe even lift your feet up, and you keep your shoulder blades on your back. And you can do all kinds of fun things from there. If you find your wrist hurting, just keep working your fingertips more and you'll build strength and integrity in your wrists. Now another really fun arm balance is Pancha Mayurasana, which translates to peacock pose. And this is a pose that can really teach you valuable lessons for your shoulders. It's sometimes easier than handstand, and it's known sometimes as the forearm balance. We're going to practice first with the thumbs holding the block, and this just helps you not slide your hands in and your elbows out. So this just helps you keep more integrity. Now, Pancha Mayurasana, you can practice and build strength simply by coming into dolphin pose. This is the preparation. And you look at the block. If you look down here, you're missing some of the fun. So keep looking at the block, drawing your shoulder blades on your back. Your fingertips are still active, and then you just start to walk in. Keep your eyes on the block, and eventually you can maybe lift one foot, and you start to float up. Feet stay active, legs stay engaged, shoulder blades on your back, hands active. And again, you don't have to go up, but practice the prep. Practice lifting one foot and then the other. Practice staying engaged through your fingertips, drawing your shoulder blades on your back and keeping your feet engaged. The posture doesn't matter. What matters is that you learn from what it has to teach you. And especially these more challenging postures, they always have a lot to teach us. Now you can always put the block up against the wall. Right? So then your hands would be there and you can kick your feet up to the wall. The only challenge with working at a wall is then sometimes you come to rely on the wall and you're scared to do it in the middle of the room. So I think it's better to practice dolphin and just lift one leg and then the other, maybe kick up every once in a while. And make sure you do that at least as regularly as you go to the wall. Now, another variation you can do is you can actually press your forehead right at the hairline into the block. And that pressure here, we're going to learn more about this in inversions and with your headstand, but that pressure here helps draw your shoulder blades on your back, and it also forces you to keep your fingertips engaged, which we know is important for arm balances, so then you can kick up more easily. I'll show you that one really quick. So holding the block, your hands wrap around the back side of the block, forehead goes to the top of the block. And you're pulling the block towards your head and pushing your head into the block. This is how I first learned to do this pose, and then it can be a little easier to lift up through your legs and your feet. Feet stay active, shoulder blades on your back, pressing your head into the block. So that's another option for practice. The one that feels easier to you depends on what's going on in your body. This posture was really hard for me because of my shoulders. My shoulders actually rounded forward a lot when I was beginning to do yoga. So it was really hard for me to get the shoulder blades on my back. So pressing the forehead into the block really helped me. Now, if you want to do it freestanding, one alignment cue you can do is you can kind of catch the skin on your forearms, because what will happen is when you try it on your own, the most common misalignment is the hands come in and the elbows go out. So you catch the skin on your outer arms, so you'll catch and then turn your palms down, and that'll help you stay more stable in the forearms. which we learned in Module 4, is the earth energy. So that's your grounding energy in this pose. So it's very important to stay connected through there, and that'll help you stay connected in your fingertips. So as I come into the pose, I'll place my arms, palms up, kind of catch the skin on the forearms, and then turn the palms down. Fingertips engage, shoulder blades on my back, right? So I'm not rounding, shoulder blades on my back, my gaze is forward at my thumbs. Walk in, feet are active. You can practice just lifting one leg and then the other, and then eventually you can kick up. It's easier to balance with your legs apart, and then you can eventually start to bring your legs together. Feet active, fingertips pressing down, shoulder blades on your back. That's your mantra in arm balances. The last arm balance we're going to do, and I encourage everyone to practice this, are handstands. Handstands really similar to Panchamayurasana in that you're going up into a full extension, and you really, in handstands, if I have less than 50% of my weight in my fingertips, I cannot maintain the pose. And I tell you that because a lot of people don't know why it's so hard for them or why they can't stay in the pose, and most of the time it's simply because they're not using their fingertips enough. That's what held me back for a long time. I'm going to show you a couple different variations of handstand and how to get into it. Now, like practicing anything at the wall, you can do that if you need to build strength and your confidence to stay in the pose, and I understand that. And I recommend that you move away from the wall regularly. So your pose is actually a handstand. It's not handstand at the wall, right? You don't want that to be the only way you can do a handstand or try a handstand. And as always, it's not the pose, the final pose, that matters, and you're always going to be taking the pose deeper and refining the pose, but it's that you try it and that you learn from it. You go to new places. So this is the way I like to teach handstand, and this is the way I learned handstand. And I did like probably tens of thousands of these before I could actually do a handstand, and that's just what it takes most of the time. So what I recommend is being in a downward facing dog. Fingertips go first, so the fingertips are active. Fingertips are pressing into the mat so much that the fingertips turn white. And then I recommend stepping one foot in. This is going to be your spring leg, right? And this leg is going to be the swing leg. So this top leg stays straight and it just swings up. And this bottom leg just springs, right? So this, you can practice just this, and this is the mechanism that's going to help you get up. Eventually, you keep your gaze on the ground, fingertips pressing, shoulder blades on your back, and then you swing and spring. And you just start to get a little higher each time until you start to get stuck. And then eventually you get stuck for a little longer. Feet stay active. And then eventually you start to bring your feet together. So that is the way I recommend starting your handstand practice. I think that's the easiest and most approachable way. That being said, another way to practice is jumping from down dog, a short down dog, into a tuck, right? And with that particular practice, you're learning to get your hips over your shoulders, which is essential for handstand. So that's a great practice just to practice being in momentum, getting into your handstand, and being comfortable comfortable swinging your hips over your shoulders. Now the fear everyone has is, I'm gonna fall. So you can always hop up close to a wall, put blankets behind you, put bolsters behind you. And remember, this is what my teacher told me, remember that your shoulders are your brakes. And if you remember that, you'll stay pretty safe. And just keep drawing the shoulder blades on your back, pressing your fingertips into the mat, and keeping your feet active. As long as you remember those keys, you'll be fine. Now I'm going to show you one at the wall that I think is great too. And this is really the only handstand variation at the wall I recommend you do consistently. So this is a handstand at the wall variation. This is really the only handstand wall variation I recommend you do consistently, because this will still teach you proper alignment and it'll teach you to have power and strength. I do think that this is harder than doing the swing spring leg in the center of the room, but this does give you an option where you can feel the support of the wall, so it might help you overcome any fear you have at trying handstand. So what you'll do is you'll want to take a short down dog, very short, and plant your fingertips mindfully, so fingertips down, fingertips active, shoulder blades on your back. Your shoulders are your brakes. Then you're going to take one leg only as high as your sitting bone. No higher, not here. This leg goes here. And then you're going to stretch that leg straight, right? And what this does is it starts stacking your hips over your shoulders. My hands are a little far away, so I'm going to walk them in. Now for some people, they start to move their shoulders this way, but you want to move your heart towards the wall, and that actually helps you feel more stacked and more steady, and then you can take the top leg up, right? So if the shoulders are moving away, if you feel really heavy, it's miserable, but if you pull the heart towards the wall, you'll feel much more steady and strong, and then you take your head towards your thumbs, but your heart still moves towards the wall. Now, some common mistakes people will make is that same shoulders moving away. So you want to move the heart towards the wall. And the other one people will make is putting their first foot too high. So if you put the first foot too high, if you put it here, you're on a diagonal. And this is just miserable. It's really bad for your shoulders. So be sure to put the foot here, lift up, shoulder blades move towards the wall on your back, and then this top foot can come over. Now, when you want to advance the pose, you start just pushing maybe just your big toe away from the wall. And you start balancing just little by little in the splits, right? And then you can eventually start bringing the legs together. But the wall's there to support you until you don't need it anymore. So those are a few different ways to try handstand at the wall. And again, handstand's super empowering. It's a super strong posture, so I recommend you do start putting it into your practice in a way that serves you and feels good to you. Thanks so much for watching. Namaste. And in your arm balances, remember, just press your fingertips into the mat, keep your shoulder blades on your back, and keep your feet active.